Thank you for that introduction, and thank you to the organizing committee of the Beef Symposium for asking me to be a speaker this evening. I'm really excited to speak with all of the attendees here tonight to discuss records for tracking genetic improvements. Before I get into the presentation, if you're not familiar, the BCRC is a national industry-led, producer-funded organization. Each time that an animal destined for beef is sold in Canada, there are two levies that are collected, a provincial checkoff and a national checkoff. The provincial checkoff funds provincial organizations and the Canadian Cattle Association. The national levy collected is used for three things: marketing and promotion of Canadian beef, both domestically and internationally, public and stakeholder engagement, as well as research. Each province decides how to allocate that national levy between the three areas. BCRC gets a portion of it, and we use it to get matching funds from the federal and provincial governments and other organizations to fund research and extension projects of priority to Canada's beef industry. Currently, we work with over 30 different research and extension institutions, have over 100 projects underway at any one time, and we work with over 40 different funding agencies. Our goal is to take your checkoff dollars and leverage it with other funding. So typically, with one producer dollar, we're able to leverage 3 or more government, industry, or private sector dollars. So we are largely a producer-funded organization, and we are led by producers. So these are the council members that make the decisions and that the BCRC staff are very proud to support. The number of council members from each region is proportional to the number of beef cattle within that region. Now, before we talk about what records to keep or what information to record, we need to talk about why. So why are we collecting records? The point of record keeping is not to collect everything. It's to collect the information that's going to support your goals and take your operation in the direction that you want it to go. So genetics record keeping turns everyday observations into decisions that improve profitability, efficiency, and herd longevity over time. Without records, it's nearly impossible to know whether your breeding program is actually moving forward or just staying the same. Now, records will do a number of things, and which is why they're important. For one, they can show whether your herd is improving. Genetic change happens very slowly in beef herds due to the long generation interval. So you're not going to see change in a year, and you can't rely on memory to be able to track it. Without records, herd improvements are assumed, but with records, herd improvements are measured. Records also help to support bull selection decisions. So bulls influence more calves faster than any other genetic input on your operation. And records allow you to match bulls to the herd needs, evaluate bulls after purchase, and to help to identify which bulls will work in your operations environment. So records can help to turn bull buying from a gamble into a well-managed investment. Records also help to improve replacement heifer selection. So the heifers you choose as replacements will impact your herd for an average of 8 to 10 years. Records help to identify daughters from productive, trouble-free cows, help you avoid keeping heifers out of cows with calving, fertility, or performance problems, and help to select females that fit the long-term herd goals. So the heifer that you keep today may still be calving when the bull you buy this year is long gone. And finally, records can help to inform culling decisions by helping you to identify cows that are underperforming and not contributing to the herd's long-term goals. And remember, culling cows that don't fit your system is just as important as choosing the right bulls or replacement heifers. Record keeping is often perceived as hard when it's not clearly tied to better decisions, profitability, or time savings. But good records don't create more work. They actually make the work that you are already doing more profitable. So there's no single right record-keeping system. The best system is the one that you're going to actually use on your operation. So whatever you choose, consistency and backing up your data are much more important than the complexity of the system. For some examples, you could use paper-based records. So this could include notebooks, calving books, wall charts. These are very common and work very well for capturing basic information, such as calving dates, treatments, or weaning weights, and are a really good tool for smaller herds especially. Spreadsheets are another option, such as Excel, and they offer a lot more flexibility by allowing you to sort, summarize, and analyze data, such as cow productivity or calf performance over time. You can use a combination of these systems, so use a combination of paper-based records and spreadsheets. There's also commercial herd management software that is available. And these softwares really build on the information you're able to include in paper-based and spreadsheet systems, but are able to integrate the animal ID, pedigree, health, breeding, and performance records, and are able to produce reports that are going to help support your culling, replacement, and breeding decisions. There is also an increasing availability of mobile and cloud-based systems, which allow data to be entered chute side on a phone or tablet and synced automatically, and this can help to really reduce errors or duplication of any of the data that you are entering. When we start to talk about which records are going to help inform your genetic selection decisions, we need to start with having a clear breeding goal. So your breeding goal is a statement of where you want your herd to be in the future. Setting breeding goals determines what information should be collected and how that information is going to be used. Without goals, record keeping just becomes busy work instead of an actual decision-making tool. Now, defining clear breeding goals doesn't have to be a complicated process, but it does have to be intentional. And it's going to be based on your environment, management, and marketing, along with where your herd is now and where you want it to go in the future. By outlining the current production parameters, it will become a lot more clear as to which traits are going to need improvements in your herd in order to meet those goals that you've set. And once these traits are identified, it also becomes a lot easier to select your replacement bulls and females and to make those clear, good culling decisions. Once your breeding goals are defined, you can then focus on which breeding system fits those goals, which will help you to determine also the records that you're collecting. Now, there are a variety of breeding systems available. There's different crossbreeding schemes, composite or F1 bulls, rotation on a time scale. You could use terminal crosses with F1 or straight bred females. But regardless of the system that you choose, setting up these systems effectively requires an understanding of the characteristics of your own operation and the genetics that you have available to purchase. By intentionally aligning the purchase genetics with your operation's goals will help to contribute to an enhanced revenue and reduce costs over time on your operation. We're going to touch on crossbreeding a bit here quickly, as it's one of the cheapest tools that producers have to improve animal performance in a commercial cow-calf setting. So crossbreeding systems offer advantages in the cow-calf setting by combining complementary traits from different breeds and capturing heterosis or hybrid vigor. There are a number of different crossbreeding systems that are available, and these include two-way breed rotations or three-way breed rotations. Plus, you can do terminal crossbreeding systems. So there's a lot of options to look at. We're going to take a look at a quick example. So Sandy is a cow-calf producer, a commercial cow-calf producer, and she's retaining ownership of all of her calves, so both steers and heifers, through to slaughter. She's not keeping any as replacements. She's keeping them through to slaughter, and they're all going to slaughter. So what crossbreeding system might fit her goals best? Because she doesn't retain replacement heifers, a terminal crossbreeding system is likely going to fit her goals or is best suited to meet her goals. Both two-breed and three-breed terminal crossbreeding result in 100% of offspring heterosis, leading to calves with higher growth performance. Now, whether you choose a two-breed or a three-breed terminal crossbreeding system is going to depend on factors such as the land base that you have, because that's going to determine the number of breeding pastures that you would have available or the number that you have capacity to manage on your operation. Before I go into a few more details on records to retain and different selection scenarios, it's important to have an understanding of some of the tools and information that's available to use when making genetic decisions and determining the most important records to retain. So some of these include an understanding of trait heritability, as well as trait correlations, expected progeny differences, and selection indexes. So we're going to go over these concepts in a little further detail before I get into some more record-keeping scenarios. Heritability tells us how much of a trait is controlled by genetics versus the environment and/or management. And it's expressed as a number between 0 and 1. Now, there are 3 levels of heritability for traits in beef cattle. High heritable traits are those traits that are strongly influenced by genetics, which means that you can make changes quickly by selecting the right replacement heifers or bulls. Some traits that fall into this category include your carcass traits, such as yield grade or marbling grade. Moderate heritable traits are those that can be improved through both genetics and management, and includes traits such as weaning weight or birth weight. And then you have low heritability trait or low heritable traits, and they're mainly influenced by crossbreeding or management decisions. And fertility traits fall into this category. The higher the heritability, the more progress you're going to make through selection. Traits with low heritability do still matter. They just require dedicated management to go along with your genetic decisions. For example, if you are wanting to improve fertility in your operation, just selecting 4 fertility traits is not going to move the needle. You need to look at your management practices implemented on your operation to really make an impact. Traits don't work in isolation. Selection for one trait can cause an increase or decrease in the expression of another trait, and sometimes this is in ways that you don't want. So trait correlations are expressed as a number between +1 and -1. A positive correlation means that as one trait increases, the other trait also tends to increase, and a negative correlation means that as one trait increases, the other trait tends to decrease. Despite these positive and negative labels, neither automatically indicates whether that correlation is actually beneficial. A correlation is only considered favorable when selection for one trait leads to a desirable change in another. For example, milk yield and calving interval have a strong positive correlation. So what this means is that as milk production goes up, calving interval also tends to increase. Despite being a positive correlation, this is not a favorable one, as an increased calving interval is not a desired outcome. In contrast, yearling weight and ribeye area also have a strong positive correlation, but in this case, it can be considered a favorable correlation, as an increased ribeye area as a result of higher yearling weights is a desirable outcome. So it's important to keep an eye on or have an understanding of trait heritability and correlations when you're looking at the traits that you're wanting to improve in your operation to meet your goals. Expected progeny differences, or EPDs, are the difference between the predicted average performance of an animal's future progeny and the performance of, or the average performance of calves from another animal for specific traits. These predictions assume that the bulls or cows that are being bred are similar and managed under similar conditions. It's important to remember that when you're looking at EPDs, they are comparative numbers. So you either need to compare to the breed average or to that of another, or the EPD of another animal. So I've got the bell curves, overlapping bell curves in this illustration on the slide, and what they're showing is the range of calf performance from sire A and sire B. So although individual calves may perform similar in that we've got overlap between calves, on average, sire B's EPD indicates a 6-pound advantage in average weaning weight across many calves, highlighting how small EPD differences can add up at the herd level. Selection indexes are another tool, and they help to simplify genetic decisions by combining several traits into one value that reflects your breeding goals. while also accounting for trait correlations behind the scenes and making it easier to avoid unintended trade-offs and helping to prevent single trait selection. So you can kind of think of a selection index like a financial index. So instead of tracking every single trait or stock on its own, the index is combining them into one value based on their economic importance. And they're usually expressed as a dollar value difference between animals. Now, it's important to remember that although indexes and EPDs do simplify ranking of animals, it's still important to look at the balance of traits relative to your breeding goals. A few examples of selection indexes is that you can have all-purpose indexes, which are a balance across both maternal and terminal traits. And these indexes are often best suited for herds that keep heifers and that keep replacement heifers and are marketing steers from the same calf crop. Maternal indexes prioritize fertility, milk, and stayability, and they're typically designed to build better mother cows. And then terminal indexes focus on growth, feed efficiency, and carcass traits. So they're most suited when all calves are being sold and none of them are being kept as replacements on your operation. So now let's take a look at bull selection. So bull selection is often where producers focus most of their attention, and rightly so. Bulls contribute half of the genetics to every calf that they sire, and one bull can influence dozens of calves in a single breeding season. The graph on the screen now is illustrating the genetic impact of bringing new herd sires into a herd that is retaining its own replacements. So since each generation gets 50% of its genetics from the sire and 50% from the dam, the genetics of each bull are further passed down through the retained replacements. And the bottom line is that the sire genetics can stick around in your herd for a really long time. But buying a bull is only half of the decision. You have to be able to evaluate whether he worked. And records help to ensure bulls match herd needs rather than chasing trends or extremes. Looking back at calf performance helps to confirm whether previous bull purchases are actually delivering on expectations. So if we think about Sandy's example, so remember she retains ownership through to slaughter and she's not keeping any replacement heifers. So in her situation, she could assess selection. To assess selection, you'll need to be able to track which bulls are siring which calves. She might want to look at feedlot performance, and you could do that by a pen by sire basis if you wanted to. And then a nice bonus would be to know which bulls are siring the most calves. So some records to retain there include the sire and dam ID, as well as your calf ID, and being able to match those animals, those calves to those sire and to the sire and dam. And some performance metrics might be good to measure as well. So looking at calving ease, weaning weight, yearling weight, feedlot performance, and carcass quality. And again, the records that you are keeping are going to be influenced and determined by those specific goals that you've retained or set for your operation. The decision to raise or purchase replacement heifers will vary based on the management and economic goals of each individual operation. So if you have been collecting and analyzing records to this point, you may already have set breeding goals, which will determine which characteristics you need to be looking for in your replacements. Some of the criteria to consider include birth date. So how old do you need heifers to be to fit into a front-loaded calving system? If you want your heifer to calve at 24 months, she needs to be bred by 15 months of age. So what birth date are you looking for? What breed composition will work with the bulls that you are running? How has her dam performed? And how has she performed herself up to this point in her life? When we talk about replacement heifers, we're really talking about the future of the herd. A heifer that you keep today may still be calving when the bull you bought this year is long gone, which is why genetic records matter so much at this stage. So one of the most valuable pieces of information is the performance history of that heifer's dam. Cows tend to produce daughters that look and behave a lot like them. If a cow consistently calves unassisted, weans a solid calf every year, and stays in the herd without issue, her daughters are far more likely to do the same. On the flip side, if a cow is always late calving, raises a light calf, or needs help at calving, keeping her daughters will often just repeat that problem. So records allow you to identify those patterns instead of relying on memory. Some of the records to record are the individual animal identification, so looking at that heifer ID, dam ID, birth date, birth weight, weaning weight, and calving ease of the dam. You might want to add in other traits such as udder or feet conformation, mature weight. Again, these will depend on the goals of your operation that you've set. And you want to be collecting that information at birth, at weaning, as well as after purchase, depending on whether you're retaining or purchasing those heifers. Records also help with the culling decisions, so they can help to separate bad luck from bad genetics. So one tough year doesn't always justify culling, but repeat underperformance certainly does. Culling based on documented performance improves herd efficiency and also frees up resources for better genetics without having to increase cow numbers. You can use simple measures to quickly identify cows to be culled, so use a cull tag or add some kind of mark or an asterisk beside that cow ID within your records so that you know that when we're coming to culling time, you know that that cow is on that culling list. It's also important to identify some of your non-negotiable traits. And so these are traits that you have a set threshold that these cows have to be meeting with that trait in order to be kept within the herd. And this helps to remove some of those emotions from these decisions. The records that you'll want to keep or that are useful when you're looking at culling decisions are, again, animal ID, calf ID, calf performance, cow performance, health treatments, conformation issues, temperament, calving interval, pregnancy status. You might want to add other information to that list. And you want to be recording this information at every time. So every time it happens. So every time there's a health treatment, you want to make that record. Every time you're doing preg checking, that cow's open, mark it down. Anytime you see a conformational issues, mark that down. The better accuracy you can have, or having those records current and up to date, the better your culling decisions will be. The Beef Cattle Research Council offers a free e-course on keeping records for tracking genetic improvements, and I really encourage you to register for this course as it provides a lot more details on the concepts that we've gone over tonight, and also links to resources to help you get started or to build upon your current record-keeping system for tracking genetic improvements in your herd. The course is divided into 7 modules covering different concepts for tracking genetic improvements. So these modules cover breeding goals and crossbreeding, EPDs and heritability, selecting replacement bulls, replacement heifers, culling decisions. It goes over information on some genetic testing tools, how to use calving ease, post-weaning gain, and yearling weight. There's also a comprehensive course guide that includes module summaries and key takeaways, as well as a herd assessment worksheet to help you determine where your herd is sitting today based on the information that you've got and collected. So if this is something that interests you, I would encourage you to scan the QR code, and that will take you to a registration page. The course is offered, it's an e-course, so it comes through email, so you'll get emails, 7 different emails for the course modules. So I'll wrap up with a couple of questions for you to consider as you think about your own operations goals and genetic selection records. So what records are you already keeping? How are you using those records? Are you using those records? And if you could add just one more piece of information to improve decisions on your operation, what would that be? You can keep up to date on BCRC resources on our website, beefresearch.ca, or connect with us through social media. Thank you.